X's video recorder, you press the record button and it does change the icon slightly, but you don't know if it's actually recording. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyways, so I just got Stars Without Number, printed the free PDF at lulu.com. It was about $22, and we're going to be going through. It starts off with character creation, but we're going to be going through the history of space, because this section I was supposed to, I want to know the background of it, but I'm finding some mental block that's keeping me from reading it, so I figure might as well bore all of you with it. It's so funny that I'm making this video. No one but myself is ever going to see it. I have so much to do in life, and I'm doing this right now. And I think that's exactly why I'm doing this. It's just because it's like I look at my to-do list in life and personally and professionally, and it's good because I'm busy and I've got a lot of stuff to do. But at the same time, it gets so overwhelming, and then you feel like you're making progress and then you're not, and you think like, what am I doing every day? What the hell am I doing every day in life? And then you put together the free PDF of Stars Without Number, pay $22 at lulu.com, ships to you. And you're reading it and you're thinking, well, I really have no one to play this with. I'll probably try it solo. And then I really wanted to read Kevin Crawford's take on the state of our universe when he built this game. So I'm thinking, well, let's go ahead and read this and make $1 million video out of it next to this piña light that I got for my birthday, which I realize was actually a really pricey gift. Anyways, all right, let's get on with it. The history of space. The default setting of Stars Without Number is a far future age in which the sprawling, glorious domain of human beings, of human space, has been reduced to a scattering of squabbling powers and long-lost worlds. The ancient domain of humanity has shrunken with the collapse of the psi-powered jump gates that once stitched the remote regions of the frontier into the teeming worlds of the human core. Now, almost 600 years after the catastrophe that ended the golden age of man, new hope rises from the wreckage of a fallen empire. In the beginning, humanity's interstellar history began in a musty Instafab laboratory on a remote coast in northern Greenland in the year 2108. A small army of jury-rigged microfab plants and hot-wired autofacs had been churning for years, painstakingly realizing the plans of their creator. Dr. Tiberius Crone was an insular lunatic of the first water, a laughingstock among the physicists and a regular font of absurd claims. Were it not for his admitted talent at wrangling autofacts, he would likely have vanished into the 22nd century's faceless proletarian mass without so much as a ripple. His talents had got him the parts and resources to establish his laboratory in the radioactive wilds of Greenland. not far from the hot zone left by a missile from the Russo-European War. The glow masked the peculiar emissions from his test units, but in 2108, his work finally reached fruition. Krone had invented the spike drive, the faster-than-light engine that would lift humanity to the stars. Even now, 1,000 years later, researchers still wonder how Krone managed to devise the mathematics and theories that supported the spike drive's creation. Widespread claims of alien influence were debunked by later mandate historians, but rumors of these mentors are still stock space legends. Some of the axioms involved defied all perceptible reality, and the theories made certain assumptions about the fabric of the universe that spun off at least a dozen new religions within the first 200 years of the discovery. The spike drive was a window on a universe far stranger and vaster than experimenters had thought possible. Through a delicate gravitic twisting of the universal substrate beneath the ship, the spike drive drove it upward through a spectrum of dimensional frequencies. The ship vanished from mundane luminal space and was thrust into the multi-dimensions. These inchoate realms of vast energy currents and formless masses were extremely hostile to unprepared ships, but their gravitic currents propelled the ship at speeds impossible in the mundane universe. Suitably massive objects such as stars cast a shadow into these metadimensions, forming both navigational beacons and anchor points that enabled transit up and down the dimensional spectrums. So long as a spike drive had a star to launch from and a star to bring it down, it could ride the metadimensional currents in a headlong rush of superluminal speed. The initial transit along a course was always the most dangerous. The multi-dimensional currents were unmapped on those routes, and a navigator had to make regular course corrections in hope of finding a current that would bring them to their course before the spike drive's protective bubble broke down in the meta-dimensional environment. Once the initial journey had been made, course rudders could be shared with other ships. So long as ships regularly made the transit, any shifts in the currents could be recorded. If a route lay fallow, far too long, however, the slow creep of currents would render the rudders worse than useless, and a fresh course would need to be plotted by some brave crew. Krone's discovery was announced by the sudden launch of his retrofitted spacecraft laboratory from the Greenland hot zone. A number of orbital weapons platforms attempted to bring it down, but the spike drive provided such a wildly anomalous maneuver profile that the tracking algorithms were hopelessly confused. Earthside watch stations followed him out of the edge of the solar system, dutifully recording his ship's impossible velocity. At the very rim of the system, the sensors picked up a strange gravitic surge, and he was gone. He returned 13 days later, broadcasting a radio transmission that not only included data on Alpha Centauri that could only have been acquired through on-site surveying, but also included the necessary data for the reconstruction of the spike drive. Between the observations of the tracking stations and the content of the signal, there was no doubt of it. Mad old crone had actually done it. Even today, no one is entirely certain how he managed it. A prototype spike drive would have required 6 days of metadimensional travel to reach Alpha Centauri and drill down into mundane space. Crone claimed to be alone aboard a ship, but such would have required him to remain awake in navigating the uncharted drill course for 6 straight days without any hint of prior experience. The creed that later became known as the Book of the Sky refers to it as the night journey of the prophet Tiberius, and consider it founding events of the faith. Tiberius himself promptly drilled back into the metaspace on his transmission had been sent. Once his transmission had been sent, he was never seen again. To this day, 13 known religious sects are convinced that he was translated directly into the presence of God as a fitting reward to the opener of the celestial ways. All right, well, there's the first page. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more pages. I'm not going to read them right now. I'll save them for another time. But these are going to start being, I don't know if I'll start doing these dailies a few times a day. Just for myself. God knows no one else is going to see this. Just some nice bedtime stories.